Welcome to the Buddy and Shane Show.
Hello and welcome to the Buddy and Shane Show. This is exciting times. Grand final is coming up. Congratulations to the Brisbane Lions and also the Geelong Cats into another grand final. It's very greedy. I'm coming to you from the Melbourne studio. Buddy Franklin is on the Gold Coast. Buddy, we're down to 2. It's very exciting. How are you?
No, I'm really well, and we've started early this morning, which is nice. But God, they were pretty good games, weren't they, Croft? Like, I think the 2 best teams are in the grand final, which is going to be spectacular to watch at the MCG next week. So I'm really looking forward to that game. It's going to be a cracking one.
Yes. Now I'm going to pump myself up. Well, firstly, it's grand final week, so we should have had balloons behind us. You know, the Cats and the Lions. And I was walking through the park and I had all these balloons. I actually went to a lot of effort to get them. I got swooped by a magpie. I crapped myself, and they were helium balloons and they flew off into the sky. So I apologise that we don't have any, what do you call it, paraphernalia? I don't even know if that's a word.
I saw you at the Hawks thing. It looked full on down there. The crowd was going crazy before the game. Looked awesome.
Well, that's it. Yeah, right amongst the Hawthorn crowd, walking across the bridge walk. So we headed across the bridge. I thought I'd get amongst it, singing, and the energy and the vibe was up and about. So it was nice to connect with those supporters. They were saying that they love the Buddy and Shane show.
That's important.
Probably more the Buddy show.
And they
were asking, where's Buddy? And I said, he'll be there for grand final day, don't worry. But today's show, we're going to just have a quick review of the Hawthorn Geelong match and also have a look at the Brisbane Collingwood match. And then we're going to talk about the Brownlow Medal. Who's going to win? Nostradamus is going to tell us exactly how it's going to unfold. And then, don't forget Thursday, we're going to have a preview to the grand final. I'm going to tell you exactly who's going to win the grand final. So don't forget to tune in on Thursday. Let's hook in. Geelong, 30-point victory against the Hawks. Hawks were good early. I thought they outplayed them early, but Geelong just hung around like a bad smell. We know they're such a good side. But it was the guy that you've been saying for a while. You got a feeling Paddy Dangerfield is going to lift. He's going to fire up in the finals. Boy, did he lift. He had 30-plus touches. He's kicking goals. It was like he was a 21-year-old Paddy Dangerfield.
Yeah, I thought that. Well, I watched him the last couple of weeks. You could just tell. He's just his energy, his want, his hunger. I could tell he was set for a big game, and he wound the clock back, didn't he, Croft? What an incredible game! I think he was the difference, really. When the game was at its hottest, he was the guy that really stepped up and set the scene for them. At times, it looked like a man against boys. It really did. He was just hungry. He wanted that ball. And he really set the scene for them, and he got the win. What's that? How many finals appearances? I think he's had over 30 finals appearances now, which is an incredible feat itself. And that was one of his better games. So, well done to Danger and on to another grand final.
Well, what he had 30-plus disposals. He had 20-plus contested, which is huge. And he kicked 3 goals. It was one of the great games. The only, I suppose, if you wanted to be negative, and I don't want to be negative, because we want to be positive, we're celebrating wonderful players and grand final coming up. But being an older player, he's been able to have a good break in between matches. He's not going to get this week. So, an older body, the way that he played on the weekend may not be fresh and as vibrant as he was on the weekend. That's just me being negative. Cameron was good. Stengel was good. He was very lively and gave him a lot of energy. But Chris Scott, I reckon Chris Scott nailed it because I thought the Hawks were really controlled early on, the way they moved the footy, especially with Tom Stewart, just being a sort of bit of a roadblock, but they really carefully thought through it, although it was pretty windy and swirly, so it was hard at times for kicking. But Chris Scott in the coaching box, so he had Weddle tagged by O'Connor, he had Watson on Mullen, and he had Newcomb and Atkins. So not only did he do the 2 clamp, he went to 3 clamp. Everyone's saying you can't even tag one player these days. He's shown in the finals you can have 2, and against the Hawks he went with 3. It was a wonderful coaching job and just an even performance from the Cats right across the board.
And it worked. Shut down their three best players, which was important for the win. But for me, I looked at that game. I thought Blitzarv's Crawford was really important in that game. I think obviously Stanley going out of the team with that hamstring, I think it's really opened the door. I think he really changed the momentum of the game. I think it's just his second efforts. He gets back onto the ball quick, and they absolutely smash Hawks inside. That contested ball, centre bounce clearances, they just got it forward and absolutely destroyed Hawks inside. And I think it started with him. He was the guy that really set the scene, was onto it. And then obviously Paddy, Blitzarves, their leaders really stepped up for them and were able to get the ball forward of centre. And I think the Cats' small forwards really did some damage too, which was good.
Yeah, they smashed him in the middle. They did. They went to work. So what do you do? Because Blitzarves, what an incredible player, from a running background, jumping steeples. Actually, you would have been good at steeples. It would have been like just stepping over a fence, where for me, that would have been like high jump. I would have had to have a mat on the other side. So what do you do with Blitzarves? Because do you bring Stanley back in? Because Blitzarves for the first two finals, as you said, he had so much run right across the field. He's highly competitive at ruck contests. And that's where they're doing Holmes, Smith, Blitzarves. They're running him off their feet.
Well, I'd keep it personally the way it was. I think that their running capacity through that middle of the ground is just incredible. And I think with Blitzarves in there, he can run out the whole game. But I'd personally leave it the way it was. It's a winning formula. It's working. I think that's the way they'd look at doing it next week. You'd think.
Tom Stewart, wonderful player. We're disappointed for him that he's going to be missing a grand final. He's such a key ingredient for the Cats and been a super player for such a long time. You've probably been in all Australian teams with him. He obviously got tackled, gets concussion. Marbior Chol gets 3 weeks. And just because he's a Hawthorn player, everyone's going to say, oh, you're defending a Hawthorn player. But, oh, my goodness, accidents happen. I don't know what you're going to do. I think you're going to have to tackle with one arm. You're not allowed to use 2 arms from now on. What are we going to do in this situation?
I'm shocked at that call. 3 weeks. Yeah, guy misses the grand final, but it was a brutal tackle, and I thought it was a crunching tackle that was fair. Yeah, he smashed his head and he misses the grand final, which is really disappointing for Tom. You don't wish that upon anyone. You want him to play the best players to play in the grand final. But I thought it was a crunching tackle, fair. What do you expect him to do in that position? He's tackled hard, fair, I think. Yes, he's hit his head, which is very unlucky for Tom. But to get 3 weeks for that, I think that is pretty bad. I think personally, I think it's not good. It's not good for Hawks, and I think to get 3 weeks for that's disappointing.
And this is where a common sense rule needs to come in. They need to throw the rule book out and go, listen, this was an accident, an absolute accident that happened on the field. And if Hawthorn had a won, all of a sudden this week, all the talk's not about, Hawthorn are going into the grand final. It's like, can they go and appeal this, with Chol? Can they get him off? It's all that negative talk about trying to get a player into the grand final. So, yeah, it's disappointing. But anyway, what do? Hawthorn has to appeal it and they'll win, because common sense will overrule the weirdness of the tribunal.
But Crawford, even with the talk at the moment with them saying they wanted another bye next week so then Tom can play in the grand final, it's just too much breaks, unfortunately. I think accidents do happen on the footy field and guys do miss out. As I said, it's disappointing that Tom's not going to be playing there next week, but to have another bye, what they're saying, have another bye next week and then play the grand final afterwards is just ridiculous. It's too many breaks. You want momentum. If a team's got momentum and's winning, God, you want to play the next week. Yes, there's going to be disappointment if a guy gets concussion, but there's too many breaks already. It's just you just want to continually play, get the grand final done, especially when you've got momentum. So I think that's just ridiculous.
And in the wash-up for the Hawks, it was a very good year. They were under a lot of pressure coming in. Expectation was high. They played great team footy, and that's one thing. Being a past player, I was really proud of. It's not necessarily winning all the time. It's actually the way they go about it and the way they team together. And I thought they did that really well. You You get Will Day, Kelshire might come back in at some stage next year. Maybe a Zach Merrett might be at the Hawthorn Football Club. So as long as they keep working together, working hard, the future seems pretty bright. They do definitely need another classy midfielder through the middle.
Yeah, I think so, Croft. I think obviously their back line's pretty set. I think the forward line looks pretty good. Maybe they look to get another key position player in, maybe. But I do think getting Day back next year, hopefully Merrett comes to the club. I think they just need to add a little bit more depth through that midfield. But, they should be very, very happy with the way they went this year. To play in another prelim, it's another step forward from last year. So to play in a prelim, they should be setting their sights on a grand final next year, the Hawks. Obviously, a lot has to work to get there, but it all depends on your fitness and your availability throughout the year. But, yeah, they should be setting themselves for a grand final next year, the Hawks.
And confidence level with Zach Merrett getting to Hawthorn? Out of 10, where would you be?
I'm all in on it now, Croft. I think
what, you're saying 10 out of 10?
I think 10 out of 10. I think they can get this done. I think, when the captain's come out and said he wants to leave, there's no going back from that, I don't think. And, I think Hawks are all in on him, and I think they can get this done. So fingers crossed it happens, and we see him in the Hawks colours next year.
Well, there you go. Knowing Sam Mitchell and, he'll have that fire in his belly. He won't be happy. I think he would have conceded that, we weren't good enough. Simple as that. We've got a bit of work to do. And I'm sure he's already hard at work trying to make that team better. The Brisbane Lions, 29-point victory over Collingwood. Great win by the Lions. Started well, then Collingwood kicked 6 in a row. They get their noses in front. Do you think the Magpie Army are going to get them and surge them into a grand final? But, hey, you've been saying I'm worried about Brisbane with their key forwards. You got Morris. Gee, I like him as a player. And then the young boy,
Gallop.
the young horse, young Gallop, he's played 4 games. Doesn't he look lively? So he was a Brisbane Academy player. Geelong bidded on him in the draft, and then obviously Brisbane said, nah, we want him. So he was a bit of a smokey, but I tell you what, I think they've got 2 key forwards that are going to hold this club in with it
For the next 10
throw in the
years,
Ashcroft
you'd think.
boys. The future looks unbelievable, and they're standing up on the big games.
To kick 3 goals, Gallop, in your 5th game in the prelim final at the MCG is a huge effort. It's a huge effort. But their key position stocks look good for the next 10, 15 years, obviously with the Ashcroft boys there. But what a win that was. I think, McCluggage really set the scene for them. Obviously had over 35 touches, was just awesome. It was, I think Collingwood, especially early in the game with Pendlebury going out of the game, that was hard for him because obviously he's been in every game this year. He's a leader. He's a heart and soul player. I think him going out of the game cost him. I think just in different times, especially with leadership, with their game plan, I think at times him not being out there did cost him a little bit. But yeah, what a sensational win by Brisbane. 3rd grand final in 3 years, Croft. So they're doing something right, aren't they? They're an incredible team, coached so well. It was an awesome effort.
Yeah, well, coming into the final series, I was thinking Geelong or Brisbane. No, I think Brisbane midfield's, so much better. Even though they play each other in the first final, I can still see those 2 possibly playing off in a grand final, and it's worked out that way. But what about the Scotty Pendlebury calf? Because I've never done a calf before, and I know you had a few little calf issues at times. Do you have awareness during the week at training? Do you have, or do you, is there any signs whatsoever, or is it something that just can spring up out of nowhere? Because 5 minutes into a game, off a break and off, from someone who's an absolute professional in everything they do, any warning signs?
Maybe don't do too many sprints before the game. But I don't know. No, I think I think before the vision, they said 5 minutes before he was talking to the doctor. So maybe he did pick up something early in the warm-up and then sort of took it into the game and sort of tested it a little bit. But, calf's a calf, Croft. If you've got a calf, especially when you're 36, 37 years of age, that's a 6-7 week injury. Obviously, their season's done now, but it's probably something you don't want to be picking up, I think. Like, he's been pretty resilient, Pendles, over his career. He's obviously nearly he's played over 400 games, so he's been resilient. But when you do pick up calves, they're a frustrating one to get rid of. So hopefully it doesn't continue on next year for him. But, he's a professional. I'm sure he'll be fine.
So that's going to be the challenge with Collingwood. Collingwood have been all in with their older players this year, and it almost got them, into a grand final. But the next few years are going to look a bit interesting because, what do you do at the end of the season? Which players do you try and hold on to? You got to keep developing younger players and give them opportunity. And unfortunately, it didn't work for them. Steele Sidebottom wasn't at his best. Jeremy Howe, they took a risk with him. Scott Pendlebury, his body failed him. It was always going to be the case, even though they were winning and dominating all year up until, pretty much the finals, even though they had a slower patch, but they did go through a hard training phase. That was always the worry. Will these older bodies stand up when they need them to stand up? And unfortunately, it failed for them.
Yeah, and I think they'll probably look at what Geelong have done this year, even with Dangerfield. They've managed him really well, and look what happens. He comes out in the prelim final and absolutely turns it on. I think next year they'll be looking at that and go, okay, with Pendlebury, with Sidebottom, how do we manage these players to make sure that when the finals come, they're on, which no doubt they're great finals players, but they probably need to be managed throughout the season, even though they want to play every game. I think once you get to that 34, 35, 36 years of age, you need to be listening to the medical staff and maybe playing, missing 1 or 2 games every 4 or 5 weeks. Do you know what I'm saying, Croft? To make sure that you are fresh and ready to go. And I'm sure that'll happen next year for sure. You'd have to think so because they can't play every game.
No, yeah, it'll be an interesting off season, but it's been a very, very good year for them. Well done to Collingwood. Jamie Elliott, how good was Jamie Elliott? What about his
mark? The hanger.
He was zipping around in that forward line. You would think he was a 21-year-old the way he was going about it. So you throw in Dangerfield dominating and looking like he was a 21-year-old, and then up there you've got Jamie Elliott kicking 4, taking hangers, looking like he's a young kid. Yeah, an amazing year, an incredible year this year.
Yeah, nearly 60 goals or something he's kicked this year. Jamie Elliott he's an incredible little player, isn't he? Just looks so damaging. You can't give him a metre or 2. But on the flip side of that, Croft, I thought Rayner obviously didn't have much impact early in the game. Fagan makes him play small, deep forward and turns it on. Has 4 shots at goal, 2-2. He's that X factor, isn't he? And he's going to be a big factor in this grand final this week. Just the way he goes about it. Obviously, he can get up the ground. He's a bull, but he hits the scoreboard and brings teammates into the game. So I think he's going to be a huge factor in this, whether Brisbane win the game against Geelong on the weekend. That's for sure.
And Will Ashcroft does what Will Ashcroft does, and it's good to see his brother was in the midfield at times as well. So they've had to do that because of Lachie Neale going out. So they've had to try and reshuffle the decks or throw the magnets around. So it's good to see. It must be pretty exciting for the parents to watch their kids.
How cool is that?
Not only play out together, to play in the middle.
How cool is that though? Being out there with your brother, like to get the opportunity to play on the big stage with your brother. His parents must be absolutely stoked to see that. You could even see when they're getting interviewed after the game, just the smile on their face. They just couldn't believe that they've got this opportunity to play there, live out their childhood dream, Croft, to play in a grand final together. This week's going to be incredible. So, to see the smile on their face was pretty cool.
The Dacos brothers, they were good, 26 and 27 touches each. But there was no other Collingwood player to have more than 20 touches. So, they've got a bit of work to try and reshuffle their decks and get better contributors, especially through the middle of the ground, to help them out. They've both had exceptional years. So, interesting times. Chris Fagan's done it again. He's found a way to get Brisbane into a grand final. And, Craig McRae, he's done a great job getting an older list to perform so well throughout the year. So it's a pretty good effort.
Croft, I thought
you're listening to
Croft. I did think just watching after the celebrations. Every team celebrates a little bit different, but I thought you just watch the way Fags goes about it. He's so level-headed. He's taking it all in after they've just they're into a grand final. He's just such a level-headed coach, isn't he? He just takes it all in. You can tell the players play for him, and that's what I love about it. There's an unbelievable team, Brisbane. All the players love him. You can see how they embrace him, and it's just been a pleasure to watch Brisbane this year. So I think the two best teams are in the grand final, Croft. So this is going to be an all-time game. I'm tipping a very close one, aren't you?
Hey, don't give it away yet. Don't give it away. That's Thursday.
That's Thursday, is it?
But, yeah, that's Thursday. So, yeah, definitely don't jump on that. I want to ask you about Lachie Neale and also Berry. Berry's shoulder goes out of the game. Lachie Neale's had a calf. Apparently he trained well on the weekend. Coach Buddy, what are we doing? Because two super important players, if you can get them both in the team, surely a shoulder you can strap it up as much as possible and maybe jab it. A calf, that's a different story.
Yeah.
What are we doing? We're going to play them both?
We've been here at the Swans where you've brought injured players into a game and it costs you. It costs you big time, especially if you are early in a game and a guy goes down, especially with a calf. I think with soft tissue, it's too risky. It's way too risky. The game's at its highest. It's hot. It's fast. It's the biggest game of the year, and you need fit players. And if you take fit players in, it's you're rolling the dice. You're rolling the dice. You know, it's a big call to bring Lachie in. Like a calf's a calf, really. Like we know he is a stoppage player, but you've still got to have that burst of speed to be able to put on pressure. And if you can't put on the pressure, I personally don't think he will play. I think that's too big a risk. I think Berry with the shoulder, I reckon you strap that up and give it a little bit of a squirt of an injection and he should be fine to go. And if it pops out, you pop it back in and get on with it. That's what I'd be doing. But I do think with soft tissue, it's a different story, Croft.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating. But, proof in the pudding with what happened, obviously, with Pendlebury. You know, you have a star player out and a real leader go out early. It can really affect your team. I like the fact that they trained him really hard on the weekend and really tested it. And that was purely, probably not for Lachie's sake, more for the coach's sake to go and make that decision. So I'm calling that he's going to play.
Wow.
I think he's going to play.
We hope he does. We do hope. You don't want anyone to miss a grand final, but we don't know what the scan shows. The scan could be just a minor strain where maybe you can push through it, strap it up and get through. But, I think it's a big risk. That's for me. I think it's a big risk playing a guy with a calf, but fingers crossed it's only minor. He can push through and they can win a flag.
It's only a grand final. Who cares?
It's only a grand final.
Just go for it.
But we've been there before. It's a big risk.
Yes. Yep.
It's a huge
so you reckon
risk.
It definitely cost you.
We got absolutely smashed. We got absolutely smashed by Geelong, so I don't think it was that exact thing. But I think, when you play injured players and get smashed, then the criticism comes. So you just got to be ready to take it. If you lose.
You're listening to the Buddy and Shane Show for AIA Australia, a life, health and wellbeing insurer with a commitment to helping Australians lead a healthier, longer, better life. Young Player of the Week, it's my most exciting segment that we have on the show. It's time for
Buddy's Young Star of the Week for the Kia Tasman. Here now.
Who we got? We got Max Holmes. This guy's only 23, Croft, but, what an incredible player, isn't he? He is unbelievable. Just so fast, explosive, makes things happen. Yeah, what can I say? Everyone knows about Max and what he brings to the table. He's just an incredible young player, and still only so young.
Yeah, no, I love him. Like, obviously, he plays on ball, but he can go wing, he can go half forward and go half back. He's a running machine. His mum was a champion athlete, sprinter back in her day, and I love the fact that that's a real weapon for him, even against the Hawks on the weekend. You could see the longer the game went on,
the more he
just opened up and found a bit more space. And especially with Smith zipping around as well. And then you throw Blixarves. And then I think Neale, Shannon, I think he was a champion 400 or 800 metre. They got champion athletes all over the field, but the difference is they've got skills. They can hit targets and they can play the role that Chris Scott wants them to play. But I like that selection. Well done. All right, we're going to get into the Brownlow Medal.
Wow, okay.
Something that only a very few special players can do is win a Brownlow Medal.
No, I did see a photo of you the other day in the suit you wore in 2004 or 5 or something. Oh, my God, that suit, mate, was horrible.
It was Hugo Boss.
It's Hugo.
And at the time, it was trendy. It was trendy. It was sort of like a brown, purplish, real glitterish type of setup. And do you know what? All you do is you trust the stylist and you go, how do I look? And you know stylists are a bit different and they approach things a bit differently and they're always trying to get a different outfit out in a different way. So I just backed them in. And, she was pretty poor setup. But anyway, just roll with it. All right, the Brownlow Medal. We are going to tell you who's going to win the Brownlow Medal. And I'm just going to read out some of their odds just to give us a bit of a gauge and see if there's one that we clearly like, but also a couple of roughies. So Nick Dacos is at $2.50. And remember, gamble responsibly. We're not sponsored by any gambling platform. So we're just going through, and looking at the odds. Nick Dacos, $2.50. Bailey Smith's at $5. Jordan Dawson is at $6.50. Noah Anderson, $7. Matt Rouse at $13. Nasiah Wanganeen Miller, he's at $51. Caleb Sarong, he's at $51. Tom Green for the Giants, he's also at $51. Hugh McCluggage and Marcus Bontempelli, or Hugh McCluggage is 80-1, Marcus Bontempelli 100-1. So is there anything juicy there, or do you just think Nick Dacos is going to get it done?
I think I've said it for a while now. I think Nick gets it done. I think he deserves it. He deserves it. I think he's had a tremendous year. For me, a little smoky. I think Bont top 5. I think he'll maybe top 3. I think he's
Even though he's 100-1, you think he can be top 5 in the Brownlow Medal?
Top 5, I think. Top 5. Bont. I think he played 18 games, but those 18 games are pretty good. pretty good. Like he's right in the face of the umpires. You can't miss him. And he'll get his 25 to 30 touches, kick a goal a game, and when you're doing that, you're always in those votes. So I think Bont will probably be top 5 in the Brownlow. There's no doubt about that. But I think this is Nick's. I think Nick should get this done. I think that's who I think will win for sure.
It's going to be an interesting count because Collingwood's last half of the year, was a touch patchy. They went through a bit of a slump. Whereas you got sides like Geelong, so that gives Bailey Smith, he might come with a bit of a, like a steam train down the outside. Gold Coast Suns, I'm really intrigued to see how their voting goes because we know Matt Rao gets votes. He has a history of playing really well, getting 3s, but now you got Noah Anderson in the mix. And normally when the Gold Coast win, it's Matt Rao, Noah Anderson. They're the best players through the midfield. I don't think any other players are going to take votes off them. So I think they'll be getting 3s and 2s, but which way will it go? And that could decide the winner right there. If they do go towards the captain in Noah Anderson, who does run and carry, although Matty Rao gets the footy and does all the bullocking work, which the umpires do like, that for me is the most intriguing watch of the night. So
that'll be the issue though. They're going to steal votes off each other, aren't they? They're going to steal votes.
But the issue is they had 16 wins for the year, near enough. I think it's 16 wins. So that's 16 3s and 16 2s. Now I'm not very good at maths. When I think of 16 2s, I'm thinking, hang on, you're still going to possibly be, and you won't get all the 16s. You won't get votes in 16 games, but you might. You're going to be in the 30s. So if you're telling me that Matt Rowell or Noah Anderson are going to get into the 30s somewhere, that's almost winning the Brownlow Medal. So that's an intriguing watch for me.
Mate, your thought process, you can tell you're a Brownlow medalist, mate. I don't even think like that, to be honest with you. But
No, I'm trying to put together a Quinella
yeah, I don't know. I think when you say it like
trifecta.
that, Croft, I reckon they'll be up there, won't they? Those two, definitely. I think when they win
Absolutely.
16
And Dawson-
games, you're right. You're right.
And Dawson from Adelaide, I don't think anyone's taken votes off him through the middle. So, you know, and they won a lot of games. They finished on top. I think it's going to be an intriguing watch. McCluggage 80-1 and Marcus Bontempelli 100-1, and also Ed Richards is another one who I think I'll get a lot of votes. I just think they're wrong odds. You know, I've got a feeling that they're going to be a bit of a chance. Okay, so let's do a Quinella, right? So you tell me the first two in the Brownlow Medal, and I'll tell you the odds that you can get. So you're obviously saying Nick Dacos. Who do you think's going to be right up there with him? You think it's Marcus Bontempelli?
No, I think Bont will be top three or top four. Anyway, I think Nick and Baz Lenka. Yeah, I think those two. I think it'll be those
Bailey
two.
Smith. Where are we? Bailey Smith, Nick Dacos, $4.50. So, and I'm saying Noah Anderson, Nick Dacos, that's $5.
So who are you saying? Are you
to,
saying Anderson wins the Brownlow?
Well, confidence level 6 out of 10. But I've got a feeling if the threes are going his way, he doesn't argue with the umpire. He's had such a wonderful year. He's All-Australian. I thought he almost could have been All-Australian captain. I've got a feeling he's going to win the Brownlow. Not always right. I did pick Paddy Cripps last year. I did pick Brisbane Lions. However, the last 20 years before that, I didn't get the premiership winner. I didn't get the Brownlow winner. So can I get on a bit of a roll? Can I go back-to-back like the Brisbane Lions are trying? So that's it. What do you reckon? Is that where we're at?
That's all right. I reckon Nick. But it's Nick will win it. So that's where it sits.
Okay. Well, Buddy Franklin thinks Nick Dacos is going to win, and he's extremely confident of that. All right. Well, I'm happy to take him on. Good luck, Noah Anderson. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure Thursday you get involved. Reviews. We love your reviews. So please send us more. Tell us exactly what you think. And all the other stuff that you need to do. Spotify, YouTube, reviews, and what's the other thing? Subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. You've been listening to the Buddy and Shane Show.